Hello everybody, this is VG Time back again with another deck profile, and this time we're taking a look back at the Captain Ginyu leader from the Unison Warrior set. This guy right here is one of my favorite leaders. I do play him quite a bit, and the reason being is that he does a lot of things that is inherently broken. So let's just go over him again. When he swings, you get to reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a 2 cost or less green Ginyu Force, you get to put them into play. And then you still get to draw a card. So he gives you a free body and a card draw. Then he has an awakening that is a dual awakening, where you could either have 4 different Ginyu Force guys out, or you could be at 4 less life. Either way, you draw 2 cards and you flip them over. On the back side, he becomes Ginyu, new leader of the Force. And he has the same auto as the front side, but an activate battle once per turn, where you could pay green to be able to pump one of your guys plus 10k. And this is of course on either turn as an activate battle, so you can use it to push in for extra damage as well as to protect your guy. So first things first, the card that they printed that made this deck a whole lot better is the new card, Ginyu Force of Showstoppers. So this guy has a permanent that makes him count as Rikum, Birder, Goldo, and Jace. It also is not unique, which is another thing that's great about it. And it has, to me, a completely snapped in half auto that says that if it hits your opponent or takes a marker off their unison, you get to put into play 2 cost Ginyu Force other than itself. The good thing about it, though, it does require you to have 2 energy, so that makes it keeps it from being absolutely absurd, but it's still a very strong card. So now I'm going to get into the rest of the deck, and we're going to go with the enablers, starting with 4 copies of Ginyu Helix Strike. You pay 1, pitch them from your hand, look at the top 3, add a Ginyu Force to your hand, put the rest on the bottom, and then you get to play a 2 cost Ginyu Force from your hand. And that's all for 1 generic energy. Then, if we're fortunate enough to be able to charge yellow at some point in the game, we have 3 copies of Frieza Call. I use this more as a recovery card. Our opponent, dealt with our initial board, charge a yellow, Frieza's Call into something, and then start it all back over again. This next card you want on the table, but it is also a starter in a sense, is Goldo Psycho Psychic. He's like a starter in a pinch. You could pitch him from your hand to look at the top 3 cards of your deck and rearrange it in any order. And then he has an activate main as on the field once per turn, where you could look at the top 5 cards of your deck and rearrange them in any order. And it's not simply just rearranging them in any order. You could put them back in any order. So you could also put some on top and some on the bottom, which is extremely powerful. We're playing 4 copies of Rikum. Rikum is the card you want to get off these starters, because Rikum allows you to play another Ginyu Force from your hand when you play him. Our boy Jace swings and gets us a Ginyu Force off the top 3 and allows us to put the rest back on the top or the bottom in any order. Birder, fastest in the universe, is a blocker that has the ability at the end of the turn to restand, as well as manipulate the top 3 cards of your deck. And I think it's kind of underrated with those abilities. I think those abilities make it so that you never have dead draws as an aggro deck. And that to me is just extremely powerful. When you get really good at manipulating those cards, there should never be a point where you're like, man, I'm just drawing garbage. Like, you should always be drawing gas. 2 copies of Ginyu Backbone of the Force. This guy right here is a lot easier to play than he was before because of Showstoppers. Filling in the gaps of whichever one you didn't get. This guy right here could swap control with himself and another one of your opponent's battle cards. There's no size restriction or anything like that. So I just, great card. Ginyu the Body Snatcher. This guy right here is also free, assuming that you have a card that you took from your opponent. So of course you want to take that card, swing with that card, and then sack it for this guy. This guy anthems a team plus 10k, which makes it so that they could push in for that final turn. And the reason why I'm running these guys at 2, even though it's pretty easy to meet his requirement, is because usually your opponent doesn't have anything worth taking in the first 1 to 2 turns. They're usually either setting up a unison or something like that, so you really want them around turn 3, turn 4. Utility, we go to Dodoria. Dodoria is a 1-drop double striker that takes life. Of course, that's good against unisons, but it's also good to help you gain access to your own life once you already awaken so fast. Belmod. Belmod allows you to reset your own board to continue the aggression. A lot of times we'll have our board out there, and if our opponent is just walling up and hoping to survive, you might swing with a few guys, they might live through it. You could Belmod those guys away, use one of your initializers and make that same board back again and continue pressing on your opponent. 4 copies of Nappa Demolition Man. This is my super combo of choice for this deck. It allows you to double up on this super combo by coming to play after you combo them from your hand. Continue with cards that you combo for effects. 1 copy, Powerful Bond Ginyu Force. This guy is counted as all of them, but you're never going to play him onto the table. You're going to use this auto where when you combo with him, you get to anthem your team for +5, which is pretty good like early game. You might get that, you could sit on that turn 2, get everything out, and just push them straight in. Gradient Mass Saiyan Primal Carnage. The ultimate, you're never casting it, you're using it as removal, because when you combo with this guy, you're allowed to remove it from the game to pop one of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier. A lot of times you can like sneak your opponent into thinking that they're going to win and then just off their battle card. It's kind of funny when you do that. Meta Cooler, the Terrifying Horde. This is our unison for the deck. This guy right here does a lot in general, but in this deck is even better. So it has an activate main once per turn where you could just make a 15k token, which goes along with the aggression we're trying to go with. But it has a +1 where you could pitch a card from your hand to draw 2 cards. And with all the deck manipulating we're doing, it allows us to make sure that we're not just drawing 2 random cards, we're drawing 2 cards we actually may want. And that to me is just really gross. And then the -4 is flood the board with 15k tokens. Next up, we have 4 copies of Shocking Deathball. Shocking Deathball is our negator choice. If we were running a heavier unison package, then I could see a world where Dormant is a card. But honestly, this deck doesn't really want Dormant. This deck wants this so that we could gain more access to our life, as well as help us deal with aggro mirrors. And then lastly, Cold Bloodlust. This right here allows us to shut down basically a big turn from our opponent, assuming that they're not playing a card with deflect. A lot of the times people see green and they think about Frieza, and they try to run a lot of barrier threats into you. And this card right here just says, I don't care about the barrier, you should have ran the deflect threat. And you just shut down their turn, and then it comes back to you. You could do a whole bunch of things and just kill them. So that is the 50 cards of the deck. It's very fun, very powerful, very explosive now. And I think that if you give it a try, you'll see just how great it is.